Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Two Average Brown Boys podcast. I'm your host, Prashank,
And I'm your host, Andres.
and today is June 7th, 2021. Andres, how's it going, man?
It's going pretty good, man. As per usual, we mentioned the weather. So the weather has been gorgeous. There's been a couple of days that it's been raining, but honestly, I don't mind it. We need the rain, but it's been so nice outside. Just been enjoying, getting a little bit of a tan, and just living my regular life. But it's been a pretty good week so far. How are you doing, Brishang?
Yeah, it's funny, a couple weeks ago it was like close to that zero degrees Celsius, and then, just the other day we had a heat warning for, I think, most of Saskatchewan where it was like above 36 degrees Celsius. So only in Saskatchewan where you can go from 0 to 36 in pretty much within weeks or even days sometimes, it feels like.
I know that, I think it was Thursday that it was like that hot, and I decided to work out, and that was a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not complaining, I complain about the winter all the time. So, as much as the heat can get you down sometimes, I just love the heat because I know, especially in Saskatchewan, it doesn't last long, right? Like our summers, after pretty much August, September, it starts getting much, much colder. Sometimes, it snows as early as October. So, got to enjoy this heat while it lasts.
We gotta do it, and especially as brown people, we've gotta love the heat.
Yeah, we come from hot places, so got to enjoy that when it's here.
Absolutely. So, Prashant, tell me, what did you learn this week?
All right, so this week, I fell down a really deep rabbit hole. I don't know if you've heard. I'm sure you have. I think a lot of people have. But so if you go on YouTube right now, the recommended video for not just me, because I know I've seen on 20 on Twitters too, but it's a YouTube profile called JCS Criminal Psychology. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's pretty much, it breaks. So the guy who runs the channel, he breaks down police interrogation and criminal psychology. So, the main video that everyone was watching pretty much this past week was what pretending to be crazy looks like. So it breaks down this not serial murder, a first degree murder charge on somebody. I don't want to name him because I'm not going to give person pretty much we don't want to make him even more famous as he is already. If you watch a video, you know who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't want to as we've done this in past episodes too, we're not going to give any we're not going to highlight any of the negative aspects of these things that happen. But it breaks down the police interrogation between the detective and this famous mass murderer.
Yeah.
And pretty much he was the whole time he was pretending to be insane and crazy, but clearly with his past and his other activities that he's done, clearly everyone knows he's not crazy. And then after watching that video, I continued and watched 2 or 3, 4 more videos on police interrogation and how and what detectives do to not just break you down mentally, but also emotionally. But they do it in such a subtle manner that if you're being interrogated, it's almost you won't feel it, because most of these guys they're trying to either talk their way out of it, or they think they're smarter than the detectives as well, which obviously isn't true.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the lessons that I learned, I don't know if this is a good lesson from these channels or not, but pretty much if you're being interrogated, pretty much lawyer up and don't say anything, because it seems like every time they start talking, they just dig themselves into a hole. And because it's always the detective, they do it so amazingly. They'll act as there's their friend, or they're just getting basic questions down, but in the end they pretty much get all the information they need to make sure you're not insane, and pretty much make you contradict yourself. And so the other video I watched was kind of a sad one, because the person being interrogated was actually famous in Canada. She was from Canada, and she did end up killing her one. She put a hit on her parents because she felt so pressured by them.
Mm-hmm.
And then that led me to the phrase tiger parenting, which is it's a form of strict demanding parenting, which a lot of parents sometimes do. They push and pressure their children all the time to get high grades, or success in different high status extracurricular activities. And at times, at the end of that interrogation, you kind of felt bad for her because just of the condition she was in. But at the same time, it's there's never a good reason to just put a hit on your parents, or even to do all that. So clearly she went to jail and she's in prison. But like the way that the detectives broke her down on like she didn't realize it. It was just like over because at the first they start off slow and steady, but at the end they just like go at them hard and get them eventually to confess and stuff. And so like if you haven't seen the video, definitely go watch it. I know it's like recommended to a lot of people, and I love like crime dramas. Like some of my favorite shows are like The Mentalist, Criminal Minds, CSI. And so like these videos are in real life, so it's like crazy to see how detectives work and stuff.
Oh, that's amazing. I love anything detective wise or unsolved mysteries about like, when there's like mass murders or like things like that. I get really into that. I really, really enjoy all of that. Like IRL, I find it so fascinating.
Yeah, so if you get a chance, definitely watch it. It's called JCS Criminal Psychology, and what the first one you should watch is What Pretending to Be Crazy Looks Like.
I will definitely put that on my list.
What'd you learn this week, Andres?
So, what did I learn this week? I love maps, I love geography, and all of that. So, today I learned about, like, I already, like, coming from Mexico, I know what it is like to live close to volcanoes because we have, like, some of them. And some of them, like, I've lived through them, not erupting, but like throwing ashes from time to time. This week I in a certain way also dive myself into a little bit of a rabbit hole because I watched a YouTube video from Johnny Harris. He's fantastic. I love all of his videos. They're very documentary style and journalistic, which I really appreciate. So I watched his video on why people are living in certain regions of Indonesia, even though like there's constant ashes and they're like literally in the eruption zones of volcanoes, and it was just so interesting, like just to relearn everything about like geology and geography and like volcanoes and all of that. And it is just fascinating. I just find, even though volcanoes can be scary, let's be real, a volcanic eruption can be pretty drastic and fatal. It is just so fascinating how our world works and how those volcanoes come to be. And so even though they are scary, also like all the benefits that come from like volcanic eruptions, and what are some of the benefits of like volcanoes and what are they have given us to us, like the Hawaii Islands, like the entire Hawaiian archipelago. It is like a volcanic hotspot, and you just have luscious, like that's one of the biggest things of volcanoes is like whenever there's an eruption or the soil pretty nearby to them, it is pretty fertile. It is one of the best soils to grow things in, and a lot of things around them, they're pretty luscious based on like the rich mineral content that their soil offers. But it's also very risky because if it erupts and if you don't make it out of their like the eruption zone, it can be pretty fatal. But it was pretty interesting to learn about volcanoes and watching some volcanic eruptions.
Oh, send me the video after this recording because I definitely want to watch that.
I will for sure, man. It honestly, like Johnny Harris is so good about the way that he goes about videos.
Yeah, I think honestly, at the end of the day, like as much as I love watching TV shows and stuff, like YouTube has so much great content and for free too. Like I know nowadays, you can pay for like different features and stuff like premium YouTube, but like YouTube definitely has a lot like taught me and pretty much a lot of the world, majority of the world, so many of their things, whether it's like cooking and baking or like using like you volcanoes or like me crime. Like there's so much to learn on YouTube. It's great.
I know it is. It is fantastic.
So, Andres, what do you have? What's your topic of the week for this week?
So this week we're sharing. I wanted to bring it back to our traveling days. As we start to reopen a little bit more over here in Saskatchewan, and it seems like the country in general is starting to feel a little bit more confident, and there's more things coming up. Canada Day is coming up soon, so the government wants people to be vaccinated, at least their first dose by then, so Canada Day can be back to regular. So I thought, you know what, let's bring it back a little bit to travel, but a lot of of traveling. We like both of us, we've done it both domestically and international. So I thought, why not just talk a little bit about our travel experience in Canada and what that has looked like as brown people.
All right, you want to start us off?
Sure, let's start off with just very simple, and let's talk a little bit about what are some of the like the nicest or like some of our favorite spots that we've gone so far.
Alrighty, so Canada, I've lived here for just over 12 years now, 12 and a half. And for the most part, I've been to all the major provinces. I've been to BC, I've been to Alberta, I've been to Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Ontario, and Quebec. So the only ones that are left are the maritime provinces and the territories. So, I might be biased because I can't speak to those just yet. But, eventually I do want to get to all of them, because as big as Canada is, there's some amazing things to see. The wilderness, there's so much to see in Canada. But so let me break it down into two main things. Within Saskatchewan, I think, with my internship with the Ministry of Highways in the summer of 2016 and 2017, I did a lot of driving around because I was out inspecting culverts. So I did a lot of driving in southern Saskatchewan. So, we all know Saskatchewan as being super flat, but like when you're actually out there and exploring the province, it's actually not that flat. Like, you see the rolling hills, you've seen the cliffs, so my favorite places are definitely the provincial parks. So recently, like I mentioned last episode, I did go camping to Narrow Hills National Park. It's a little bit north of Nipawin. And then even the Cypress Hills Provincial Park in the west side of the province is beautiful. There's like high cliffs and there's so much to do there, and one of the hot spots of being in Saskatchewan is the lake. And I've been to quite a few lakes around Saskatchewan where whether it's Lake Diefenbaker or Buffalo Pound, there's just so much to do within Saskatchewan, right? Like, I know we complain there's not much to do, but in reality there is quite a lot to do. And it's just, maybe it's not to our taste, like we don't want to be at the lake every weekend, but there is things to do, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. It just has so many things. Like a lot of what Saskatchewan really has to offer, it's outdoors. Like if you're not really an outdoorsy person, like maybe it's not a great fit. But if you like the outdoors, like Saskatchewan honestly is one of the best places to explore that.
Yep. So one of the hidden gems, not hidden, I guess a lot of people know about it, but the grain elevators in Saskatchewan, they're, back in the day and even now they're used to store grain and such. And I think those are probably some of my coolest things that I've seen. Like, every small town, village has those. And, that's one thing I regret about that summer where I was traveling all throughout southern Saskatchewan. I wish I would have taken pictures of those, because I literally went to like at least, 500-600, if not 1,000 of those small villages, towns, hamlets around southern Saskatchewan.
Oh, wow.
And it'd be super cool to just, take pictures of those and compile it. And then even like, I don't know if you know, but Highway 13 is known as, I think, the ghost town highways because there's a whole bunch of ghost towns there. And I did take pictures of some ghost towns out there. So like, you see those abandoned like houses that people used to live, or like I think in Robsart, which is on the west side of the province by East End, there's a hospital, that abandoned hospital. And I have a picture of that. So like, it was super cool just being able to, I was blessed enough to have a job where it did let me travel all over southern Saskatchewan and even like central and north, like northern, I guess, like I can't speak to too much because northern would be like, north of Prince Albert, because the province, when we break it down, we say Prince Albert is north, but there's a whole, like, that's only half of the actual province if you look at the shape of it.
Yeah.
So like, north of Prince Albert, I haven't been too much, or only a couple times, but like big cities and towns I've been to in Saskatchewan. And then now going beyond our Saskatchewan borders, I've been, some of my favorite places like Vancouver and Victoria. Like I love Victoria. It's probably one of like most beautiful laid back city I've been to.
Never been, but that's what I've heard.
Yes, like I know it's kind of isolated because it's on its own island, and you have to take a ferry there. But even then, it's just like the layout is really cool. And then so moving west to east, I've been to Victoria, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Regina, Saskatoon, Winnipeg, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, Quebec City, which are most of the major cities within Canada that everyone knows. Some of the smaller ones that I really want to go to is like Thunder Bay or like Sudbury, and so out of those places, like I said, Victoria is definitely one of the favorite ones. And then as boring as Calgary can be, Calgary I would say it's probably one of my favorite cities in Canada, just because its proximity to so many things. If you just go west, the mountains are there. If you go to the east, the flatlands are there. If you go down south, you're in Montana, Glacier National Park, Waterton and all that. So Calgary, I think, is definitely one of the cooler cities to live or even visit. As well as on the East Coast, I've been to Quebec City, Montreal, Ottawa, Toronto, and I've definitely got to say, like, I love Ottawa. It's really cool, but it's kind of boring because it's more of a government kind of, it is a capital of Canada. But I think Montreal is super cool. Like, there's so much to do and so much to see. Like, I remember me and my brother, when we went to Montreal, we just like picked up one of those bike rentals and just biked throughout the city. We went from our hotel downtown to the Olympic Stadium and back. As there's some sketchy parts in there, sure. Like, that'll be a story for another time. But like, Montreal is super cool. And eventually I do want to get out even east towards Newfoundland and Nova Scotia and PEI and New Brunswick and Labrador, Newfoundland. There's so much to see there. And, I really want to do that in the next little bit. And then even the territories, like, I know it's a vast, pretty much vast thing of nothingness. But even then, like, you have to go to like Whitehorse and, Yellowknife and Equalite. Is that how you say it? I think I'm saying it right.
I hope so. I really don't know how to pronounce it. Just say Nunavut.
Yeah, exactly. So like, there's lots of cool places that I haven't been. And even, within like Alberta, I mean, we can't forget Banff. Banff is probably one of the nicest. Honestly, in my mind, in North America, it probably is the number one, my favorite national park anyway. Like, it's up there with Yosemite and Glacier National Park. And, what's it called? Grand Canyon National Park. Like, Banff is just so amazing. I could like, I know if you live there, maybe you don't think so because that's you used to it. But like, for us Saskatchewan boys, we love our Banff. We go there once, 2, 3, 4 times a year in the summer, and it's just amazing.
Oh yeah, no, Banff is gorgeous. Just the Rockies in general. I love the Rockies.
Yeah, I agree with those blue waters and the mountains in the back. Oh, I would go tomorrow if I could.
Oh, I know, right?
How about you, Andres? What are some of your favorite spots in Canada?
It just there's just like every place offers something, and I know that's such a diplomatic answer, but honestly, there's always something to discover, especially like the way I like to travel. I really like to immerse myself in the city, so I always find something that I really enjoy about a city. If I don't find something, then truly like that place should not be visited. But like I really like to immerse myself wherever I go. So within Sask, I really, really, really enjoy going up to Prince Albert, to the national park over there in Waskesiu. It is just, like as much as flat it is over here, like in the central and south. Once you get to the forest part up north, it is gorgeous. The lake, the rivers, just camping up north. It is just so beautiful. I still remember like going for early morning walks and seeing the elks just walking by Waskesiu Beach. It is just fantastic. I really, really enjoy it. And then like across Canada, I think the provinces I'm missing, of course, the Maritimes. I've never been to the Times. And then like I mean Manitoba, but really it's Manitoba. Um, but I will say one of the places I truly, truly fell in love with, besides Banff, because just the Rockies are gorgeous. You cannot really like, they're just fantastic. They offer a lot, like during the winter, during the autumn, spring, summer, every season, the Rockies have something to offer. Like one of my favorite places I've been to is actually Whitehorse up in the Yukon. It is just like it is such a small city, like it is so small, like in the town. But then the many things that you have to like you can do outside of Whitehorse that technically it's still within Whitehorse boundaries. It is just fantastic. Uh, Flying up north, just seeing the mountains, like the entire flight, it is so nice. Uh, during the winter, trying because that's when I went, trying to every night, trying to catch if you could see the northern lights because the farther up north you are, the better chance you gotta. So, and it is just so nice and so beautiful. And even though it was winter, I truly, truly enjoyed going to Whitehorse. Uh, I wouldn't say like somewhere I will routinely go because it's it is a flight every single time you want to go to Whitehorse, but it is definitely somewhere that like if given the opportunity, people should go to because honestly, uh, it is just fantastic going to Whitehorse, and then um, I love the Okanagan Valley. It is just such a nice place. Seems to have a combination of like everything in there. It's not too cold, but then it is warm when it needs to be warm. You have the mountains very close by if you want to go skiing. And then, of course, it's wine country. So I feel like in heaven being in the Okanagan and visiting the distilleries and the different wine houses and just drinking. And they have a lot of good local businesses. So the Okanagan is such like so precious, so beautiful. And then lastly, I would say my other favorite place, just I hold it close to my heart because I've lived there before. I love Montreal. Montreal just gives off this vibe that honestly, personally, I feel I've never been able to find somewhere else within Canada. Like Montreal is its own thing. Uh, yeah, people may say things about Quebec and like French Canadian and like all of that, but just Quebec has its own essence, and it is just for me the best way I can describe it. It is just like it's still for some reason like it has still that European flair to it. For some reason, outside of like all the other Canadian cities, Montreal still keeps that essence that you can really relate to in different cities in Europe. Like you get that in North America, you can get it in Montreal. That is something fantastic, full of history, you know, uh, just so many things to do. And besides, like any big city, the food scene is fantastic. So I love Montreal, and like it's honestly always gonna be one of my favorite places to go to in in Canada.
And you'll be moving there soon, so you must be super excited.
I am very excited. I'm so happy. I was talking to my like so very complete tangent, but I have a friend since first like grade one, and we found each other on Facebook when Facebook started becoming a thing. And now we're so excited because literally 20 years after we parted ways, because we moved back to Mexico, 20 years after, we're coming back together in Montreal, and it is just so fantastic. Like we both cannot stop talking about it. So I am just very excited, and also I'm excited because closer to Toronto, you're closer to Ottawa, closer to Quebec City, and then I'm also closer to the Times. So you know what? Once in a while, I'll just take a road trip to the Times and visit that side of Canada that I still have to visit.
Oh yes, that's probably the. I mean, I love the West Coast. I really do like because Vancouver, Alberta is pretty with the Rockies. It's beautiful, and then as you move eastwards from Calgary all the way to Winnipeg, it's pretty flat. Like that's where the whole flatness comes from because comparatively it is pretty flat.
Oh yeah.
And then as you go towards northern Ontario, it's more like a lot of forest, dense forest, and then as you move towards the East Coast, it's like all these cool harbors and lighthouses that you definitely have to see. So there's so much to see and do, even within Canada. And like that's what I've noticed lately. With the pandemic, that not just Canadians but even Americans, they're exploring their own country a lot because they can't really go abroad or they can't go out to other places. Because usually on Instagram you see people traveling to Spain or like Southeast Asia or whatever it is. But this year I've been seeing a lot of my American friends travel within America, and that still happens. I feel like that still happens quite a lot in the US, like cross country travels where they'll just do a road trip from like New York all the way to Los Angeles, or like from Washington to Miami. But like Canada, you don't see that too often. Maybe I know like biggest factor is the number of people that live in each countries, but even then, like, but to see that within Canada and US and even as far as Australia, like even my own cousins, uncle and aunt in Australia, they've been exploring their own state in Australia. Like instead of traveling abroad because they can, it's pretty much forcing them to travel and see and do things within their own place that they would have probably never done.
Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of like where I wanted to guide the conversation, Rishang. It's just like, let's explore our backyard and like just talk a little bit about that, like our experience traveling in Canada, but also as like we're coming out of the pandemic. I think when it comes to tourism, like, lately a lot throughout the entire pandemic, everyone has been saying, let's support local businesses. That's like, those are the ones that really need our help in order to survive and thrive. But as we're getting out of the pandemic, into this new reality, new normality, in which we're able to start traveling a little bit more, uh, why not explore our own backyard, and why not like visit different parts of the country? And it's such a big country, and that's kind of like the big difference. Is like, some people are like, I want to go to so many countries, but the thing, like, living in Canada, living in the States, and even living in Mexico, even though doesn't seem as huge compared to to the States or Canada, it's still a pretty big country. I would say, like, exploring it's sometimes like you encounter so many hidden gems. You actually grow to appreciate a little bit more of like the different cultures of the different places. And even though you, let's say, like, you're not, like, in your bucket list, you're not taking off a country, you still are, like, because each province it's so different in so many ways. It's like you're exploring different countries in a certain way. We just like live within like a bigger umbrella. Yeah, no, it is fantastic. And I would say, like, the Trans Canada one, that's something I always wanted to do. But the drive, let's be real, like driving all the way from Victoria to St. John's, um, it is a little bit, it's a pretty quite big journey, I would say, compared to, let's say, driving LA to New York, especially because, within Canada, you're just hitting major cities every so often. Whereas I feel like road trips in the States, you are hitting major cities or bigger populations, but just because they have more people down there, so that the trip is not like big gaps in between bigger cities. Like over here, once you hit Trans Canada 1 into Calgary, then it's 6 hours of nothing until you hit Regina, and then like 7-8 hours of nothing until you hit Winnipeg. So it's like pretty big periods of time.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's what I noticed because, I've gone on a couple road trips in the US and even Canada. And you're absolutely right. Like, in US, more than people, there's even like, national parks, so many national parks or cities that you can just go explore and you can stop. And the road, first of all, the roads are much better, right? The interstate highways, they're like amazing to drive on. There are careless drivers, of course, but I mean, for the most part, it's been really fun driving in the US. And Canada, as fun as it is, it does get boring. Like that, like, going back to the topic of Banff, like as soon as you leave Banff and go to Calgary, it's gonna start getting boring, and you're already getting sad to leave the mountains, and behind with the roads, the mountains turning into hills, turning into prairie land. So it's kind of depressing, but at the same time, that's just the way Canada was made,
Yeah.
And we can't change that. We can only enjoy what we have.
And there's so plenty to enjoy. I know we make it sound like, oh my God, there's nothing over here. But like, honestly, there's just a lot. It's just, you give some things for others. And for us, it is just, there's bigger distances between bigger cities and bigger centers. But still pretty quite enjoyable, I would say.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things to do in like Saskatchewan or even like Alberta is definitely camping. And like when I try to go family camping or camping with my friends, I usually try to go to like different places. And even within Saskatchewan, I've been to quite a lot of like the parks here, and they're also different. Like of course they all have like a river or a lake, but they're so cool, and they're like different trails that you can do, or like biking, or even just go by the beach and lay down on the sand, or play spike ball in the grass. Like it's just so much within to do in Saskatchewan. I think you just have to go out there and actually do it instead of like sitting back and like, well, I don't want to do that because it sounds so boring. Like once you're actually out there and having fun, you'll forget about the flatness.
Oh, absolutely. I like, another thing is hiking. I think anywhere within the country you can absolutely do that. It will look different depending where you are at, but that's something I really really enjoyed, because back home hiking is not really a thing unless you're doing explore, like hiking up to the different volcanoes or hiking up like very specific like peaks. But it's not really like a lot of, like, at least from my experience, it's not a lot of trail hiking or getting into the mountains and all of that. A lot of our tourism is visiting the little towns, visiting the little like cultures around, exploring food, and that's a little bit a lot kind of like how the Latino, at least from what I've seen so far, tourism is just visiting like different places throughout the country, but uh, hiking is not really a thing unless you go to South America because you have the Andes down there. So for me, something I've learned and grown to actually enjoy quite a lot, it's hiking. And wherever I go within that I've gone so far within Canada, I always try to find somewhere to go hiking or find a trail. It's such a moment to reconnect with yourself. I find it very peaceful, so mindful, so chill. And then at the same time, you're getting exercise done. So it's like honestly, hiking is the best of both worlds.
Yep, absolutely. And there's so many levels to hiking, right? Like one of my favorite websites to use to find hikes is All Trails, and they have so many amazing guides and maps for like hiking or camping, just pretty much anything outdoors. And whether you're in the flatlands of Saskatchewan or the Canadian Rockies, like just find something that you like and just do it. Like don't let like your fear of anything really stop you, because I know that's a lot easier to say than actually do, because I'm scared of so many things that I haven't done. But like find your comfort zone, I guess, like know your limits and don't like push yourself. But once you reach that limit, don't push yourself too much, because you want to enjoy it too, right? Like if you're absolutely scared of something, don't do it, obviously. But as long as have your know your limits, continue to do it.
Absolutely. And give it like if you're curious about it, find a safe way to be curious. And like a safe way to do it, and then you can decide if you like it or not. But I will say like give it a chance and just give it a try. So Prashank, as a person of color, how has your experience been traveling across Canada?
For the most part, I think it's been pretty good. So like Canada is pretty diverse, as we both know. Obviously, Saskatchewan, Alberta, it's not as diverse. So for that, I have a different answer. But for the most part, whether going to Vancouver, you see so many diversity, and then going to the East Coast, way more diversity, just because the cities are so much bigger, and it helps because Quebec is pretty much France. I know people will get offended at that, but it pretty much is smaller France.
Yep.
And then so like for the most part, it's been pretty good. I think the one thing that has stuck out to me, and I think I mentioned this in a previous episode, is just going to these small towns in Saskatchewan where people do like you realize people there haven't seen people of color too much, and they just stare at you. Nothing harmful, nothing like like nothing that you hear on the news or even on like online where people are telling you to go back to your country. Like I've personally never faced that, and I'm sure people have. Like Saskatchewan sometimes can be pretty backwards, but for me personally, even going to these small towns, like I've never faced that outright racism. It is like that microaggression, like we talked about before. But for the most part, I've enjoyed it, and I think it's a little bit because like when I travel in Canada, I don't really stay in hostels, and I think that's where you really meet people and things. I stay at like hotels and like campgrounds where you're pretty much by yourself. You don't really get to meet new people that often. So I think if I were to stay in like a hostel or like Airbnb and like with other people, I think I would meet more people. Thus my experiences would change slightly. So like maybe I'll do that in the future, but for now I don't mind just camping or like staying in a hotel and traveling within Canada. How about you, Andres?
My experience honestly has been pretty good. Uh, like honestly, I don't have any major complaints like driving through the highways, interacting with different people, going to different cities. I think everywhere like I found it like they do find welcoming in a way. I just don't. And that's everywhere I don't feel. I wouldn't say fear, but it's not a thought in the back of my mind of like, ooh, what are they gonna say about this? Or like, ooh, that person looked me in the weird way. Why would they do that? Kind of like the way I felt when I went down to Florida. And like, I mean, Florida's a big like has a big Hispanic population, and I still felt a little bit of that. But traveling across Canada, it is not something I've experienced in a way. I think I don't know what it is, but probably something about like everyone is like anyone and whoever can afford and will be able to travel somehow. So people don't put a lot of judgment of like, ooh, how are they making it so far, or like why are they traveling here or there. But my experience has been lovely, and you know what? Sometimes even as a POC, sometimes you just get asked like, "Where are you from?" And like, "Oh my God, tell me more about your experience. How do you like it over here? What made you come over here?" So in a certain way, sometimes it's a little bit of like, I wouldn't say an advantage, but it gives you like a starting conversation. And I've done a lot of solo road trips. And whenever I remember like stepping to a bar and just to like, have food and a drink, and then sitting by the bar and then just having like a pretty natural conversation with like my bartender or anything. Like honestly, being someone who is an immigrant and just that speaks another language as well, I think it has really it's just been really nice to just share that experience, that people actually seem interested in sharing. And it, like, for me also as an introvert, it makes it's a nice place to start a conversation and a very comfortable place to start. So far my experiences have been good. Of course, like, I mean, there's little things here and there, and of course there's like in every big city there's a sketchy places that you don't want to go to. But so far, I like, honestly, no major complaints. And even going up north to Whitehorse, which is so small, I didn't face anything that like, you would like expect from different places, or like you will think of like going into such a small community. If anything, they were so welcoming and so happy that you're going up north to visit. But so far, I've enjoyed every single trip I've made within Canada. Uh, I honestly don't have any major complaints.
So with that, I have a question for you.
All right.
What's on your Canada bucket list? Like, not even bucket list. Like, what's something that you really want to do within Canada in the next couple of years?
Well, one of the things I really want to do is originally I wanted to do the Trans Canada One drive all the way, like start in Victoria and go all the way to St. John's. As I start growing older, I start like, I feel like as long as I get it complete, as long as I travel most of the Trans Canada Highway, even if it's during like in different segments, I'm happy with that. So that's in my bucket list, is just finishing Trans Canada One. Finish like, at least visit somehow each province and territory. That's something that I want to do, and I'll find a way to do it. So I still want to go up north to Nunavut and to Yellowknife. And then for Manitoba, I honestly want to go to Churchill just because I really like polar bears. That's my only reason. I know it's expensive to fly up to Churchill because you have to be driven in, like flown in. I don't care. I want to see polar bears. That's my only reason to go to Churchill. And another thing that um, I want to do in Canada, you know what? Like within the Transcanada, like just driving and exploring every province, I really would like to experience. I don't know how to phrase it, but I really want to experience each of our, in a certain way, each of our like provinces and how they function in a certain way. So like, been to BC, kind of like understand what the BC vibe is. So
Mhm.
kind of like understanding like what is a Maritimes vibe and what is
Yeah,
like the Ontario vibe. Kind of like, but like with that, it's just like it's spending more time rather than just like 2-3 days in each province, just to get a sense of
yeah,
like what each province is about, and then I can make a true judgment and then decide where I want to move.
yep. That makes sense.
What about you, Shang? What is your what are some of the items that you really want to do within Canada?
Like I mentioned earlier in this episode, I definitely want to go to the territories and the Maritimes because then once I get those, pretty much, I've hit all the territories in Maritime, all the provinces and the territories. But one thing that's been on my to-do list within Canada is take the Via Rail from Vancouver all the way to Halifax. It's a little bit expensive. Like, I was looking at the prices. It ranges from like 650, starting at $650, all the way to like 1,000 something dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And it is expensive, but I think that would be so cool to do, just like, ride the train all the way across Canada. Because I mean, passenger trains aren't too much of a thing within Canada, besides a Via Rail. I think just being able to explore Canada and like, whether it's stopping somewhere to take photos or just looking at I even saw some photos of it. There are cabins with like windows on the top and the side. That's pretty much like all windows. And I'm guessing those seats would be really expensive because the view is, you pretty much got a 360 view of the surrounding area. But like I think that'd be so cool just to do like, and the view reel goes pretty much everywhere, almost everywhere. I guess it doesn't come through Regina, but for the most part it goes Vancouver, Jasper, Edmonton, Saskatoon, Winnipeg, White River, Toronto, Montreal, Quebec, Halifax, and then there are some a little bit offshoots. But hopefully in the next 10-20 years the passenger train services expand, because in the States I have taken Amtrak. Obviously Amtrak isn't the best example. There are better examples in like Europe or like Asia.
Mm-hmm.
But like Amtrak, for what I did the one from San Diego to LA, and it was super cool. It was only like 3 hours, but like just seeing the hillsides roll past you and the beaches on the other side. We actually went during sunset, so watching the sunset on the beach while on the train was a super cool experience. And like I really want to experience that within Canada, and just seeing the mountains or the flatlands or the forest within Canada. So I think I really want to do that in the next couple of years.
I know, like traveling by train is such a different experience, and that's something probably we'll talk about later. I know we say a lot of that. It's just like we cannot cover everything in one episode. There's just so much things to cover. Yeah, no, traveling by train, honestly, I wish like it is a thing like in the east, like in the eastern provinces. I want it to be a thing within the western provinces as well. I know it's more complicated because it's long and there's more territory to be covered. But I mean, I think we're getting to that point that train is such a nice way to travel, especially if you're not in a rush. Might as well. Like, it is just so beautiful to travel by train.
Yes, and like you said, I know you have experience traveling in trains, and we'll definitely cover them in future episodes.
Absolutely. So yeah, so I think out of all of that, I would say to everyone out there, just let us know what your favorite place in Canada is if you've ever visited Canada, or if you're Canadian. What are some of your favorite top places? Some recommendations that you want to give us so that we know where to hit whenever we are back on the road to travel, or on the plane, or on the sky. We don't know how we'll travel in the future. Um, and then if you haven't traveled to Canada, which are some of the places that really will attract you to like come visit? Because honestly, there's plenty.
Absolutely, and even within Saskatchewan, within Western provinces or all of Canada, there's so much to do. And even for the non-Canadian listeners, what's one place that you really want to go? And don't use like Banff or Jasper, because I know like we get it. Everyone wants to go there,
Yes.
and that is a cop-out answer. So besides that, what other places have you heard about? Do you want to visit? Do you want to go stay at? Let us know, and we'll bring it up in the future episodes.
Absolutely. And if we've been there, we'll give you some recommendations, because as brown people, we'll let you know where to go so that you have a place to start.
Exactly. All right, Andres, what are you excited about for this upcoming week?
So for this upcoming week, I am excited because, starting to figure out the logistics of my move. So that stress in a certain way, it's a little bit out of like still there, but making progress in order to make it. And also it is my birthday week. So, I really don't know what I'm gonna be doing. It's still a COVID birthday. So I'll probably keep it short and simple, but I'm excited about that. I'm not excited about being older, but I'm just like, whenever it's your birthday or your best friend's birthday or someone, there's just excitement and joy around it. So it just turned like, I really hope it's a good week. Other than that, honestly, just enjoying the weather. Like, I've been trying so hard to be outside as much as I can. So I'm just going to continue doing that. How about you, Prashant? What are you looking forward for this week?
Well, first of all, we'll say it again, but happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Another year older, another year wiser. So
I hope that's true.
So there are several things I'm looking forward to. The first thing, like you said, the good weather has been amazing, and one of my favorite things to do, whether it's a 30-minute lunch or after work, I'll just go on my deck, and we have like this cool couch thing in the deck, and I'll just lay there. It does get hot, but like I said, I love the heat, so I'll just lay on there, listen to music, or just watching YouTube, and it's probably one of the most relaxing things I do. Gonna continue doing that, and continue going on walks, just enjoying summer. And then another thing I'm really looking forward to starting this upcoming Friday, June 11th, is the Euros championship starts. The UEFA Euros 2020, which was actually supposed to happen last summer, but due to the pandemic, as we all know, got pushed to this year. So it starts on Friday, where Turkey takes on Italy, and I think it should be a good next couple months. I think I believe the final is sometime in July, if I remember. Yeah, it's July 11th. So I guess just a month from June 11th to July 11th should be a good time. There's some early games, but it's not too bad looking at the schedule. I think the earliest ones are like 7 a.m., so just before work. Just put it on the side while we all work, and I think it's going to be really cool.
That's exciting. It's so nice that sports are back.
Yeah, that's that's one thing that I know a lot of people don't watch sports, but like sports is one of the things that brings a lot of people together, and especially when it's soccer or football, where probably the most popular sport on earth, and it will definitely bring the whole world together. Obviously, it's on a World Cup. That'll be even bigger, but that'll happen in a couple of years. Even now watching the NBA playoffs, it's been going pretty well. Sadly, my team, the Miami Heat, got swept in the first round. So I've been watching some of the good games, but for the most part, I've kind of tuned out now. I definitely will be watching the NBA Finals. But you know what? I love sports, so I'm down to watch whatever's on.
Hey, you know what? Talking about that, NHL is on. I don't watch a lot of hockey, but you know what? I'm happy, and I'm just going to mention it. I'm happy that the Habs beat the Toronto Leafs, and I'm just going to be proud of that moment. So if you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, sorry, but the Habs had it.
Yeah, exactly. We got a Montreal Canadiens fan here. I hope you go to some. Next year when we're both on the East Coast, we'll definitely have to go to some games whether it's in Montreal or Ottawa.
We'll go to a Habs Senators game.
Perfect, and then we'll put some money on it.
All right, sounds good, Prashant. But that brings us to the end of our episode this week. I hope everyone enjoyed learning a lot about what your experience has been traveling across Canada, and that we inspire you to travel within the country. If you're listening to us internationally, once our borders open up for you to come visit, but also to inspire you to visit your own country. You never know what you might encounter within your own borders, and it is just fantastic. And as we start moving away from the pandemic, let's help our local tourism bloom again. And then other than that, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. You know where to catch us on Instagram and on Twitter on the Two Average Brown Bros podcast.
Yep, and you can reach out to us on our personal Instagram or our podcast Instagram, or literally any way, where our DMs are always open. Send us your topics, send us your thoughts, opinions, comments, concerns, questions on anything, and we'll definitely answer in future episodes.
Absolutely. But other than that, that's it for today, and we'll be talking to you next Monday. Bye.
See ya.